evening, YouTube. You guys are watching another segment of the Kali Effect. Today, we're going to be going back to a long-awaited series called How to Play, where I show you guys different archetypes and how to play them. Then, we give you guys some sort of a deck profile and duel with it. Today, we're going to be talking about the Invoked Beast series, and they're a very, very interesting sub-archetype, I would like to call. Not necessarily an archetype that is good on itself, but once you mix it with other archetypes, it becomes an extremely valuable piece to your deck. The Invoked monsters are based off of fusion summoning, and all of them debuted inside of the Fusion Enforcer set. So with that being said, let's get inside of what these cards do. The main monster, the only main deck monster in this deck, is Aleister of the Invoker. It is a spellcaster, level 4, 1000 attack and 1800 defense. Its stats aren't that amazing, but when you look at the fact that it's a spellcaster and a level 4 monster, you can get a lot of great things from it, and that it's a dark. Its effect reads, during either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one fusion monster you control. It gains 1000 attack and defense until the end of this turn. If this card is normal summoned or flip face up, you can add one invocation from your deck to your hand. Now, the first effect, I love that it's not theme specific. It doesn't say you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to target one of your invoked fusion monsters. It doesn't matter, as long as it is a fusion monster, that monster will gain 1000 attack and defense. This gives you a lot more flexibility, whether you're playing it in Shaddolls, Ritual Beast, or any other fusion deck alike. It gives that monster 1000 additional attack. But the most important effect is that when it's normal summoned or flip face up, you can add the Invocation card, one of the most important card to the deck, from your deck to your hand. The next card we're going to talk about is the card we were just talking about, Aleister Search. It is Invocation. And what Invocation does is fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion materials. If summoning an invoked fusion monster this way, you can also banish monsters from your field and or either player's graveyard as a fusion materials. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one of your banished Aleister Invokers, shuffle this card into your deck, and if you do, add that to your hand. You can only use this effect of Invocation once per turn. Okay, so Invocation is really good because it allows you to fusion summon any fusion monster from your hand. You can fusion summon back to any of the Shaddolls monsters. I really can't think of any other fusion monsters that you can make, but Invocation is really good because it's not theme specific, forcing you to summon invoked monsters. At worst case scenario, you can just use it as a regular polymerization type card. The next thing is that it allows you to banish monsters from your opponent's graveyard as substitutes for the Invoked series. Now, for the people that don't know, the Invoked monsters are all based off of every single attribute, and if you banish a certain attribute, you can special summon a certain monster. So this is really good for playing off what the opponent is playing. So for example, if my opponent is playing Blue Eyes, I'll be able to banish their Blue Eyes White Dragon and my Invoked monster to summon the Light Fusion monster of the Invoked series. And not only that, it allows me to manipulate my opponent's graveyard and ruin their consistency, because now I can banish pivotal cards that they need in the graveyard. Another great thing is that if the Aleister is banished, I can shuffle this to the deck and add the Aleister to my hand. That legitimately just continues a combo of being able to summon Aleister and then search Invocation and then fuse, banish the Invocation or the Aleister when it's in graveyard. You know, shuffle the Invocation, summon the Aleister. It's an infinite loop that allows you to continuously fusion summon. Now, a card to search the Aleister, to search the Invocation, is Magical Meltdown. When this card is activated, you can add one Aleister Invoker from your deck to your hand. The activation of your cards and effects that include the effect of fusion summons and fusion monsters cannot be negated. Your opponent's cards and monster effects cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned this way. You can only activate one Magical Meltdown per turn. The main fact is now my opponent cannot respond to my fusion monsters. Is awesome. But the biggest thing about Magical Meltdown is that it does search Aleister, and Aleister does search Invoker. The next best thing is that it is a field spell card, so terraforming becomes very pivotal to the strategy. This deck is almost a 9-card strategy, being able to run 3 terraforming, 3 Magical Meltdown, 11, 3 Aleister, and 2 Invocation. Your deck's probably going to be able to fusion summon very fast. The next card we are going to talk about is the Book of Law, a card that isn't really played inside of the archetype, but I'm going to cover it just because. You tribute one invoked monster, special summon one invoked monster from your extra deck with a different original attribute from that monster. This special summon is treated as a fusion summon. You can only activate one Book of Law once per turn. Now, this card is actually pretty good. It allows you to tribute any of your evoked monsters to special summon a different monster from your extra deck. Now, the only problem with that, Aleister isn't an invoked monster, it's an invoker monster. So you would have to, right now, you would only be able to tribute your fusion monsters to special summon a different fusion monster from your extra deck. It's still a pretty good card, and it's a quick play, so it does allow you to do a lot of nasty things with OTK. The last card in the main deck that could be played is Omega Summon. Now, Omega Summon is a card that players don't necessarily use either because it's a trap card and it doesn't really help the strategy or the strategy as pertaining to fusion summoning. What it does is target any number of your banished invoked monsters with different names. Special summon them in defense position. While it could provide you an array of defense by special summoning multiple fusion monsters from your banished zone, it just doesn't fit into the strategy right now. With that being said, we can get onto the extra deck monsters that you play, and then after we talk about a couple of strategies that could be played with this. Onto the fusion monsters, we have quite an interesting array ranging from earth, wind, fire, water, dark, and light. We're going to start off with Invoked Mechaba, and what it does, it is a light machine monster with 2500 attack, 2100 defense. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, you can send the same type of card from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, and banish this card. This is easily one of the strongest invoked monsters that they have, so any deck that aligns more towards the light monsters will probably have the best shot at abusing the invoke material monster or the invoke archetype. And like I said, 2500 attack isn't amazing, but its effects definitely make up for it. On to the next monster, you have Invoked Purgatory. Now, what Invoked Purgatory is, it's a fire monster, level 7 fire monster, 2300 attack, 2000 defense. It requires Aleister the Invoker plus a fire monster requires Invoker. Burger Trio. This card gains attack for each. This card can attack all monsters you're up each once each. If this card attacks a defense position, like piercing battle damage to your opponent. Now, that might seem underwhelming to a lot of players, but if you think about the fire decks that actually can abuse Invoked Purgatrio, Infernoid, Shiranui, the extra fusion monster really doesn't matter. You can get to clear up space and then but can attack every defense position monsters. On to easily and the strongest invoked monster. It is Invoked Magland. Okay, you guys know I try what affect monsters, and normally I fail horribly, but Magalenzi. Look, and somebody's gonna be in the comment section. They're gonna be like, "Oh, Kelly, Vic, this is how you say it. It's so easy." Screw you guys, all right? Anyways, the Invoked Earth monster is easily, like I said, the strongest and the weakest. If you guys go back to Invocation, Invocation allows us to banish cards our opponent controls. So essentially, if we're playing against Zodiac, we can banish Zodiac Rapier and Invoker monster, the Invoker, to special summon Invoked Earth monster. And it doesn't have any effects. It is 3000 attack, so that's pretty good. 3300 defense. But most importantly, we got the banished Zodiac Rapier from our opponent's graveyard, which essentially helps prevent them from making their combos. So Invoked Earth monster is a very good card. I'm gonna learn how to say his name one day. Magalanica, forget it. Next is Invoke Caliga. Alright, I know how to say all the other invoked monsters. Now, what this requires is a dark monster, and then Aleister Invoker. This one's the more interesting, or one of the most interesting, beside the wind one and the light one. It says, if a player's monster effect attempts to activate, none of that player's monsters can activate effects for the rest of the turn. So basically, you get to activate one effect monster per turn. While this card is face up on the field, each player can only attack with one monster during each battle phase. So this card is almost like Shaddolls Winda. It actually works really good in Shaddolls because if you summon Caliga and Winda, you create a very soft lock. Your opponent can only special summon once. Your opponent can only activate one monster effect. Your opponent can only attack once. But most importantly, this card is really good at disrupting the opponent. And then you can just fusion summon again to get rid of both monsters to summon Elysium and then attack for huge amounts of damage. This card is really good in dark decks that are trying to prevent the opponent opponent on your opponent's turn and then can just get rid of it on their turn. The next card and the wind monster version of the Invoked series is Invoked Raging. Oh, I just noticed that. Raging. Alright, well, it's the level 5 wind monster. Arguably either the first or second best invoked fusion monster. What it does is once per turn during each player's turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field, change it to face-down defense position. Now, this is pivotal against a lot of decks, and this is the reason why the Wind Witch series of the Invoked series is making this card is basically it disrupts the opponent from plays if you flip your mortar face down. You always want to respond with Zodiac Tyrant. I'm going to talk about that. That's for a completely reason. Go like this video. Let me know down below in the description if you want to see that video. But how to beat Zodiac, but most importantly allows us to disrupt the opponent by flipping monsters face down. And if you're playing a deck like Wind Witches, you're probably going to have like a Crystal Link and a Raging on the field to prevent your opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Just an extremely good. The next Invoker, or the next Invoked monster is Invoked Casoitus. I want to say Casoitus because Casoitus, not that far off, right? This one is actually one of my favorite ones. I feel like it's underrated. It's not an awesome card, but it's a pretty solid water monster. Decks like Mermail can use it. Paleozoic, it's just a lot of water decks can use it, but most importantly, I think it hasn't really found its home, and once it does, it'll be an extremely good card. Cannot be destroyed by our opponent's card effects. That's what makes it really good. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. I mean, 2900 defense, can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. You're probably going to sit on this card for quite some time. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply its attack for damage calculation. Like I said, I feel like this is the sleeper invoker, one of the better invokers. A lot of people just look at it as like, it's not that good, especially since I have to find a way to make it with water, which is perfectly sensible. But I feel like the right water deck will soon enough be able to make this card easily. The last invoked monster is Invoked Elysium. Now, this one's requirements is a little bit different. It requires one invoked monster, so a fusion summon monster, plus one monster that will special summon from the extra deck. So it can be Pendulum, Exceed, Fusion, Synchro, it does not matter. If you're running Super Poly, if you have Super Poly, this probably would have been the best card of all time. What it does is must be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials. While this card is face up on the field, it is also treated as dark, earth, water, fire, and wind. Furakenzan, anybody? Nobody knows that card? The trap card that says you can activate it when you control. We'll talk about that later. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target one invoked monster you control in your graveyard. Banish it and all monsters your opponent controls with the same attribute as that monster. You know he's treated as all attributes, so he can banish himself and then banish all your opponent's monsters on their side of the field. But more importantly, you can banish any of your already in the ground to be able to just wipe any of your opponent's monsters with the same attribute. More often than not, if you use the Invocation card to banish cards from your opponent's graveyard as well, they're probably playing a deck with the exact same requirements. So for example, if I already summoned Mechaba using my opponent's Blue Eyes monsters, I can probably banish Mechaba again to wipe out all their monsters yet again. The Invoke series is really good. It has a lot of anti-meta elements. It also has a really good push that it can make strong boards itself. So it really reminds me of Shaddolls. For the people that don't know about Shaddolls, it was a deck very similar to this. Not the exact same thing, but pretty similar. A couple of decks that can use the Invoke series are Wind Witch, Shaddolls, Lightsworn, Inferno. Abuse of this deck because it's only legitimately 11-12 cards inside of your deck, and decks like Zodiac don't really care. They have the room to play cards like this. Well, thank you so much for watching another segment of Kali Effect. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching how to play Invoked. Be on the lookout for the deck profile. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.